Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I wanted to talk about Jonathan Kuminga. The 3-1 Warriors might have finally unlocked Jonathan Kuminga, the cum bucket, the man, number one on the court, number one on your heart. Let's discuss it. Also, what do you guys think of him, I guess, reverting back to his old number? I know he never wore one with the Warriors, but he's like, I always wore one. But either way, let's get into today's video. I think it's an interesting topic. Jonathan Kuminga, I guess one of the, besides Moses Moody, they're the last two from the two eras time period from when the Warriors were trying to usher in two separate time periods. So let's break this down. And we're just not talking about his contract, but we're talking about the organization finally buying into Jonathan Kuminga. The Golden State Warriors gave him almost $47 million on a 2-year deal, with the second year being a team option. And it's not just a 1-year rental. This could be a 2-year evaluation period, or it might just be what we assume a 1-year evaluation period, or even a few months if he does get dealt at the deadline. But the Warriors have a championship window that's still propped open by the greatest shooter of all time, and a future that's looking kind of cloudy after him, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green are once gone. Kuminga has always been the guy they've identified to bridge that gap. And the money that he got isn't a role player deal. It's actually prove that you can be a building block, a cornerstone, potential all-star deal, in my opinion. And the deal isn't even what we're talking about. But with all that being said, JK is more than likely going to be able to test his value next offseason to either return to the Warriors on a market value deal or to go elsewhere on a max or near max or anything. But I think them paying him starter money now to avoid a mutiny, and in return, I think they're getting a definitive answer on what his long-term future, before the books get completely locked up, could be. And that is a two-way forward who's a threat on both ends of the ball. So let's discuss it and talk about, what is this big bet? What have we seen from the film? And the fit with Steve Kerr has always been, let's call it, complicated. We all know the offense that Kerr wants to run, the motion, the endless cuts, the split-second reads, the hockey assists, and it's a symphony. And for years, JK looked like he was playing a different instrument, sometimes a beat behind the music. It was as if the Warriors were playing symphony orchestra music while Kuminga was jazz. And there's nothing wrong with jazz, because the whole purpose of jazz is everybody's playing their own song, and it sounds like one song. Now, his processing speed, his feel for the game, was not where it needed to be when he was younger. However, I think at this point we're starting to see a mature and grown up, more confident Jonathan Kuminga, who's looking like he could potentially be a threat for the Warriors. He would get the ball in the pass on a dribble handoff and hesitate, and the whole action would break down. In the past, he'd miss the extra pass, force a contested mid-range shot instead of hitting the open shooter in the corner. The tools were all world, but the processing was buffering, and something's changed. I think this summer, maybe it's the contract year that's passed, and the resolution is clear on what it may or may not be with the Warriors. To me, I think it's also maturity that comes with being in the league. And I've got to give a shout out here to the mentorship of Jimmy Butler. Having a dog like Jimmy in the locker room, a guy who wasn't a finished product himself, taken late in the draft out of Marquette, had to climb his way into Portsmouth, and he was a guy, Jimmy Butler, built on relentless drive, motor, and discipline, and that's invaluable. And you can see that Kuminga is having the effect rub off onto him from having Butler as a teammate. Jimmy doesn't tolerate half effort. He preaches physicality, getting to the free throw line, and just doing your job and working. And that's rubbing off on JK. He's learning how to be a professional scorer, not just an athlete. And that leads us to a reason for us to believe that this contract and his new unequivocal role playing defense, pure and simple. Steve Kerr could talk about fit all he wants, but he looked at the Western Conference and saw Luka Doncic, saw LeBron, saw Kawhi, saw SGA, saw Jokic, and he knew that at this stage of their careers, he can't ask Steph to fight over screens all night. He can't have Draymond, his defensive quarterback, exhausting himself, chasing these guys on the perimeter for 35 minutes. They needed a pit bull, and that was Gary Payton II and Andrew Wiggins, but Gary's older now, and Wiggins is gone. And they have Butler, but Butler's another guy that, yeah, he's their primary point of attack defender, but they can't have him doing that all night. They need someone who has the size, the length, the athleticism to guard 1 through 4. And who is that? That is Kuminga, the new non-negotiable value that he has. He's their designated stopper, it seems. His assignment night in and night out the last couple of games has been guarding the opposing team's best perimeter player, and this unlocks everything. It allows Draymond to play free safety to roam, to be the help side genius that he is. And I also think that the Warriors have decided that what he takes away from the other team's best player is more valuable than any occasional defensive hiccup that he might have. And now on offense, I think we're starting to see a clear mandate, all right, with Kuminga and how they want him to play. They're simplifying his role and amplifying his strengths. They're telling him, quote, "We don't need you to be a secondary playmaker. We need you to be a wrecking ball," end quote. His job is to be a vertical spacer, to be a monster in the dunker spot, to run the floor in transition like his life depended on it. He's being told to attack the rim with zero hesitation, and it looks good early in the season. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 18 points on incredible efficiency. So to me, I think that's a Jimmy Butler-esque effect, and that's creating easy points when the three-point shot isn't falling. He's getting to the free throw line like 8 times a game, and I know he isn't hitting his three-point shots like you would want him to, but for a guy with his physical gifts, attacking style, if he can get to like 70+%, every point he can get at the line is going to be a dagger for a team in the playoffs. So I think it's great, and you can even see Steve Kerr buying into Jonathan Kuminga, which is great for Kuminga's confidence, for the organization. And we've already seen the jumbo lineup that they're occasionally running out there with what seemingly is Curry, Butler, Kuminga, Draymond, and Horford. That is a statement-sized lineup that has switchability and terror in transition and a lot of scoring options that is going to allow them to leverage, their scoring and their athleticism and their length. So, yeah, that's basically my thoughts right there, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy, but I think they've empowered him. They've surrounded him with veterans like Jimmy Butler, and they put him in a position that it's clearly going to be a pivotal year, and he's stepping up to the challenge. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. What do you guys think, and if you guys agree or if you don't? Peace out till next time, guys. Bye-bye. Ciao.